Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I'm your host, Art Stapleton, and with all respect to our friend Jim Nance, this is a tradition like no other. Peter Schrager of ESPN, the four letters that we all need to know. Schrags, my man, is back as demanded by the All In audience. Peter Schrager, how the heck you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, Art. This is a tradition unlike any other, as you said. I've been asked to do many a podcast. I've been asked to do many a Giants podcast, and not that I'm such a hot name. I just said, I don't plan on doing any except Art's. That's tradition. Art and I go back 10 years doing this every year at the draft. And it's always so widely well-received by Giants fans. And yet, if I had gone a year without doing it, I felt like I would have been, it wouldn't have been whole doing this draft process. And I will say this, unfortunately, it's yet another year where the Giants have a top 10 pick and it matters. So here we are again.
This is the season that matters for the Giants. Unfortunately, that usually means it doesn't matter between September and January, or at least ends somewhere along the line. So we'll get to where you can catch Schrags this week with, this is obviously Schrager week. But let's get right into it, Peter. I mean, the Giants sitting there at 3, just like last year, it's almost like the fait accompli is the first 2 picks ahead of the Giants. Last year, it was a 3-quarterback top of the draft, and the Giants were sitting there at 6. So how do you, I know we talked about this last year, how do you sift through, in plain English, the BS of what this has become? And it's even, as opposed to where we were last year till now, just the information and the misinformation that isn't even coming from people who would actually know and want to create smoke screens. It's just, to me, it's an amazing thing of what the draft has become, but also just the conglomerate. I don't know what other word to use.
I have a treatise on all of it this year. I was kind of on ice for a little bit because I made the move from NFL Network and Fox to ESPN. So I had a couple of weeks off, and in between, it became like consensus that Shedeur Sanders was going 2 to the Browns or 3 to the Giants. And I'm sitting there banging against walls, not on television, not with a podcast. Who's telling you that? Because at no point in any of the conversations that I'm having is anyone from Cleveland telling me we love Shedeur Sanders. And yet every mock draft from the people we trust over the years has, Sanders too. And for a while there, Cam Ward wasn't going 1, and it was like Abdul Carter's going 1 to the Titans. Meanwhile, at the Combine, I thought it was pretty much all set that he was going to the Titans. So this year, more than any other year, I'm questioning the consensus, and that is not to throw shade at the Daniel Jeremiahs and the Mel Kipers and the Field Yateses, who all do wonderful work and help make this thing all an industry-wide, excitement. But I would say all of the stuff that was coming out in February and March, a lot of it had holes in it, and a lot of it was being taken as consensus, to the point where I show up on ESPN a week ago and I'm like, I don't think Shedeur is viewed as like this top quarterback, guys. And you would think I broke through glass and was trying to have a hot take, but all their mock drafts had him going 2 and 3. Here's the thing. I still think I'm doing this with you on Tuesday.
Yeah.
On Monday. Sorry. We're 72 hours out.
I don't even know the day yet.
Yeah, it's Monday. And you might be listening to this on Tuesday. I will tell you that I could say all I want, that I don't have anyone telling me Shedeur is a top 3 pick, or I don't think the Saints are taking Shedeur at not. Look, this thing is as weird a draft as ever. I had one GM describe it to me, and it's saying this is the least appealing draft you'll ever have to talk about. I'm like, what's that mean? He's like, there are 2 good players. There's a running back, and then the rest is just all kind of the same kind of level prospect. This isn't last year with 6 first-round quarterbacks. It's not last year with 3 top 10 wide receivers. It is a lot of guys who can go anywhere from 4th overall to 30th overall. And there's a lot of mish and mush in between, which makes it a very intriguing draft, but it certainly isn't a dazzling one that's going to light up your timeline with household names.
So let's just go off the top. The top three. I mean, I agree with you. I think we would all be shocked if Cam Ward doesn't end up in Nashville with the Titans. So then it goes to the Browns and the Giants, and it's interesting. I think it was actually Daniel Jeremiah who made the comparison, or at least used the analogy, which I thought was pretty good. He said the Giants and the Browns are going to end up playing chicken with each other the next couple days, in terms of, being both 2-3, and then at the top of the second round with the Browns at 33, the Giants at 34. They're both kind of in the mix for a quarterback. Some people think they really need to draft one. Some say they don't. How this thing shakes out in your mind right now, like I said, we're recording, as you pointed out, on a Monday. Are you expecting Hunter Carter? Are you expecting a curveball? Where do you see that from the people you've talked to?
Here is your curveball. And I have heard this from sources who are tied into several teams. Either Cleveland is putting it out there that there is a great demand for the 2 pick from some mystery team and there's been offers, or it's real that there have been multiple calls to Cleveland to move up to 2. Don't know for which player, don't know which team, but that would be your curveball. If Cleveland decides to trade the 2 pick, move back, don't know how far, don't know for what, collect a bounty of picks, and then someone comes up conceivably to take Hunter or Carter, which would then leave the Giants at 3, which still gives them the opportunity of drafting Hunter or Carter.
Yeah.
The other aspect of this is, if a team is willing to trade a bounty of picks to go up to 2, is there a team willing to trade a bounty of picks to go to 3? And is Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll and Brandon Brown and whoever else strong enough in their conviction that they have job security that they can look to that owner and say, you know what, we have the 3rd overall pick, and despite Hunter and Carter both being considered blue chip prospects, we believe adding a couple more draft picks down the line, adding a couple more draft picks for the future is a more advantageous place for this franchise to be than to just take one of these blue chip prospects. Me personally, my opinion doesn't matter. Take whoever the Browns don't take, or take whoever trades up with that Browns pick, and then move on, and then you address the rest of the draft as you go. Carter and Hunter, whether you believe they're going to be excellent or not, they are the only 2 non-running back blue chip prospects in this entire draft. It would have been nice to have the 1st pick overall. Malik Neighbors went nuts against the Colts in week 16. Didn't happen. Guess what? Don't overthink this and make the pick. And that's what my selection is. Now, I would add this, though, with the Giants, and for Giants fans to listen. Schoen and Daboll have been riding this bus. They've been driving this bus. If at any point John Mara pops his head in on Thursday morning, which is when we saw that conversation happen on Hard Knocks,
yep,
and says, wait a second, are you sure we're not taking a quarterback at 3? Or are you 100% certain we're going into another draft with a top 5 pick, another year where we have a top 10 pick, and we're not getting a quarterback for the future? Are we sure? And he starts to make some hay and makes it. The conversation still very much open at 3 at what the Giants can do. That is a fear of a lot of Giants fans. But then again, he owns the team, and if quarterback is a priority, and they say, hey, don't overthink it on the other end, get us a young quarterback. If we love Shedeur at 15, we might as well take him at 3 if this draft is flat afterwards.
And I'll say this about that, and it's definitely an interesting situation. I mean, look, John Mara is the owner. I mean, Steve Tisch is not popping his head in. He'll likely be there on Thursday, but he's not there on a day-to-day basis. I think what we can learn from last year, and again, Joe Schoen kept his job, but there were a lot of people who felt when Joe Schoen decided to let Saquon Barkley hit free agency that if the Giants imploded, and then obviously what happened with Saquon, we all know, there's no reason to relive it. He became the greatest running back in the history of the NFL and won a Super Bowl. He didn't lose his job off of that. So if that conviction in his process worked with John Mara last year, I would imagine Shane has to have the same conviction on Thursday if the owners sit there and say, you mean we're not taking a quarterback again? What will Joe Schoen say? And I think that conviction, like I said, kept his job. It'll be interesting to see how they sell it, moving forward. And that's kind of where that scenario. So
I think that's the whole point of why you saw the flurry of last-second visits. And I know you were one of the many reporting, like, hey, Dable does this. This is what the Giants do. They didn't have to go work out Tyler Shuck one more time. Like, they could have gotten away with not meeting with Jalen Milroe one more time or Shedeur Sanders. They could have gotten away with that and said, we've done the work. We've done a lot of work. We don't need – but if you're going to look at your owner in the face and you're going to say, with the number 3 overall pick, that is prime territory for a quarterback. There's going to be one off the board, and there's going to be the rest of them on the board. We have done the work. Now, everyone thinks they were meeting with Shedeur to see if he can razzle-dazzle them one more time. No. That also might have been the opposite, where it's, look,
right.
We have done all the work. We met with him again last week. We feel comfortable saying this isn't our pick at 3 overall. We have done so much work that we are convicted in that decision.
And it goes back to a year ago when we were on our traditional podcast with you and I, and we talked about J.J. McCarthy and the connection with the Giants and how they're not going to spend Easter weekend in Ann Arbor with J.J. McCarthy. It's got to be real. And then to come to find out in months and months afterwards is that it was that exact same scenario that you just painted with Shedeur. Now, whether or not that's accurate, we'll find out. But that was kind of the situation with McCarthy. It was, kind of didn't really like the vibe we got on the visit to New Jersey. But let's flesh it out. Let's follow through. Maybe we missed something. Maybe we looked at it differently, and we shouldn't take that vibe that he's not right for what we need at quarterback. And they go and they meet with him on Easter Sunday, and it was essentially like you said. Maybe it's that final box that's checked and go, no, we know this guy isn't for us. And that's where we get caught, right, Striggs?
Of course.
You get caught with the 30 list.
You break the news. Visits. You break the news of the actual visit, and that is news in itself. Yeah. But then the impetus of the visit or the outcome of the visit, we don't know. So all we can do is try to read in between the lines. However, it can go one of two ways. I've got information on that J.J. McCarthy dinner 6 months after the fact that you and your Giants hardcore fans will appreciate. So that dinner was at a Ruth Chris Steakhouse in Ann Arbor. It's Shane, it's Dable, I want to say it's Shea Tierney, I want to say it's Brandon Brown, it's the whole crew, and they all spend their Easter weekend meeting with J.J. McCarthy, and they go to the Ruth Chris in Ann Arbor, and they walk in, and who is at the bar just having a cocktail? You couldn't make it up. Wink Martindale sitting right there when they all walk in. So I don't know if that's ever been revealed or not, but I heard that I've heard that from an independent source. It has since been confirmed, and the Giants brass are just like, are you kidding me? Like, really? After the way that ended? Okay. Hello, Wink.
Yeah. If they needed a sign that McCarthy wasn't the guy, that was kind of the thing that presented itself. So what do you think? Look, I agree with you. I think it's a complicated scenario and situation for the Giants because of all the factors that we've mentioned. I personally don't buy into the whole hot seat. Now it's funny how everybody has bought into that narrative. And, it's like this conversation was created that John Mara told reporters after the season that, it was, do or die this year for Dable and Shane. It's not what he said. He said, I want to feel better about where we're at next year. But you can read into that and semantics and interpret and everything else. But the reality is that, to me, it's a complicated decision, but it's actually a simple one. You take the guy who the Browns aren't taking, and you either take Abdul Carter or you take Travis Hunter, and then you attack the rest of your draft board in kind. Do you agree with that? And do you see how that's probably going to play out that way on Thursday night?
Yes. I think we all are of like mind on that. However, here's the thing, is if no fans, from what I gather, and tell me if I'm wrong, no fans are clamoring for Shedeur at 3. And
some are, but not most. I don't
think the fans are what's stirring this, but if it was the opposite and it was like, hey, the fan base is so into this Shedeur Sanders, but we like this under the radar prospect at defensive end. So we think he's got real potential. It's just, no, on paper, Abdul Carter is the way bigger and brighter prospect, and the fans are in this corner, and they would then have a strength to the team. Like I look at with Thibodeau and Lawrence and Burns, and then you add at this guy, like, okay, we might not win the Super Bowl, but no one's going to come and be walking all over us and running, for 7 touchdowns like they just did on the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. Like, we have a strength, and that's up front, and that's going to be the bones of our team. And Abdul Carter has a little, stuff to him. People say he's not the cleanest prospect. He freelances a bit. He's got the injury stuff. You go to the interviews, he's not necessarily the most gregarious guy, but he's also by far the top pass rusher in this draft. And from what everyone says, the way he went about his business this past year and said, I don't want to be just a one, like, use me like you used Parsons, and then was unblockable in those games. I don't think you could have a second thought. Like, you can draft Abdul Carter and go to bed Thursday night and be like, we got the best player available, and he checks a box that makes us a really dominant team up front. Like, to me, I don't know what we're doing. And yet I can't hear, and I'm as plugged in with anybody on this stuff, I can't tell you right now on Monday that that's 100% the decision for the Giants.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's, we think we know, but it's one of those things where you don't know until the card gets put in. Like the idea of, a couple of years ago, I remember the reports that came out that, the Giants don't like Thibodeau and they're not going to take Kayvon Thibodeau. And then they take Kayvon Thibodeau. And I remember the tweet I put out, holy hell, the Giants are drafting Kayvon Thibodeau, because I didn't make those reports. I didn't report that, but people who I know at least have some connection basically refuted their connection with Kayvon Thibodeau. So it'll be interesting to see if I still find it hard to believe that Thibodeau coming up on the 5th-year option, I believe the Giants will pick that up. I still don't buy the idea that he is a trade chip in all of this, that the Giants would draft Abdul Carter and then somehow trade Kayvon.
Is there a large demand for Kayvon Thibodeau right now? No, let him play out his contract.
That's the other thing, too. Right, that's the other thing. And I think, it's one of those things where you owe it to yourself to kind of give yourself that identity strength defensively with all those guys on the field. You pick up the 5th-year option, then you have him under contract, and if he has a big year, then next year maybe is the year that you end up looking at trading him before that contract is up, because you don't want to get into
God forbid you have what they had when they won Super Bowls in 07 and 11 and a great front seven, and you just rely on that, and we're going to win games because we have a great front seven, and that's where the strength of our team is. I also look at what they did in free agency with Holland, and then the corner from New Orleans, whose name I always get wrong. What is it?
Paulson Adebo. Yeah. Paulson Adebo.
Adebo. Okay. All right. We've got a defense. We have a strength. And then, you can crap all over Joe Shane, and I get called an apologist. I'm not, but I look at their draft last year. Drew Phillips plays. Tyler Nubin plays. Tyrone Tracy was the 2nd best running back out of all the rookies selected last year, and Malik Neighbors broke every record you could imagine as a rookie wide receiver. Like, I don't think the track record is necessarily, too bad. I think the track record's pretty good from what they've done in last year's draft. They just don't have a quarterback. So are you willing to go to war with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston? And then, of course, the elephant in the room is, it's easy for my mock draft because then it kind of checks every box. Is, they're going to trade up into the end of the 1st round and they'll take one of these 3 guys and all right, everyone is satisfied. But I don't know, are you really trading draft capital to go get Tyler Shuck or Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart or potentially Shador Sanders? You might just have one quarterback taken on Thursday, and he might be the 1st pick, and then we're all sitting on our hands waiting, and then Friday it's a flurry of quarterbacks going in the top 10 picks.
Yeah, and then it goes back to that whole game of chicken with the Browns and the Giants sitting there at 33 and 34. It's almost like the Giants are in that same situation. It's okay, you guys take the quarterback that you like, and then we'll take the guy that's right after that. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I don't agree that that's the best way to go after a franchise quarterback. But look, timing has been awful for this regime, and that's not an excuse. But off of year one, when they didn't pick up Jones's option, they make the playoffs. They defy all the odds that were against them. So instead of going again into a second draft where you would have been in striking distance for C.J. Stroud, and I know that's who the Giants liked in that situation, just in terms of all the work they did during the year, they make the playoffs, they get into the mid-20s, and they've got no shot. So at that point, they can't get the franchise quarterback. They can't pull the trigger. They're not going to let Jones go. They work out the contract. I'm not looking to rehash all that stuff. But then last year, you're 6, and it's a 3 quarterback top of the draft. You have Neighbors ranked ahead of the other quarterbacks on the board. You're kind of stuck there. And now this year, you're at 3, but it's not Williams, Daniels, and May. No. It's Ward and maybe, so timing has been bad.
Let me ask you, Art, do you go back now a year from now? It's easy for us to play. Do you think they were wise to take Neighbors, or should they have taken Bo Nix, Michael Penix, or J.J. McCarthy, knowing what we know and knowing that Bo Nix was a playoff quarterback as a rookie? McCarthy, we take the DNP, whatever. He got injured. And then Penix showed great strides at the end. Like, should the Giants have gone quarterback there? I can't make the argument. Neighbors looks like he's an all-world receiver. So you need that position too. They didn't have receivers last year. So to me, like, I can't say they made a mistake considering the circumstances.
I agree with you. I think anyone going back and saying that they should have just taken Michael Penix at 6 is just not being fair to the way the process works. And I think there were some people who said just take the quarterback at 6, and okay, maybe it would have worked out. Bo Nix, I give Sean Payton all the credit in the world. I mean, if Bo Nix is at 31 other teams in the NFL, I don't know if he's doing what he did last year for Denver. So I give Sean Payton a lot of credit. He identified his guy. He went out and got him, and Nix looks like the real deal in that offense. As far as J.J. McCarthy, I mean, it's amazing. The guy plays one preseason game, gets hurt. He's out for the season, yet somehow there are some people who are out there believe that McCarthy's stock has gotten higher than what it was last year when he was going into the draft. It's amazing.
No doubt. Yeah, and then, again, you sign Russell and it's like a fart in the wind. No one is doing flips over here. I get it. But what if you didn't sign Russell Wilson and you're waiting on Aaron Rodgers right now? Now there's even more pressure to do it. So Russell and Jameis, they might not necessarily – do what you would hope as far as giving you hope for the future, but at least there is some competence that they know they can roll the ball out and they can play football next year. And hopefully that defense leads them. And gosh, Russell Wilson showed flashes the last few years. He's also looked like he hit the end of the road a couple of times. So it's a 1-year deal. You'll see. And then if you want to draft a quarterback in the 2nd round, if you want to draft a quarterback in the 3rd round, okay. And that still leaves the door open for next year. And it might not be Shane and Dable, and I'm not saying they're in the hot seat, but at least you didn't sacrifice the next 4 years to some quarterback because you felt you had to get one.
And here is to me, the question is, who does Dable believe in? Because that's the root of your process here. That's the root. Any other position, you want to go to Andre Patterson at defensive line and say to him, hey Dre, who we picking here? Who do you like? And you lean on a guy like that with the experience, the track record. With Dable, it's the quarterbacks. I mean, and look, they have to pull the trigger on a quarterback eventually to get the full credit of being on a guy. But we all saw on Hard Knocks, Dable's guy last year, number 1, was Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. And his son's and Shane's son.
Yeah. What does Carson Shane want to do on Thursday? That's what I
would listen.
But that's where you're at. So I'm leaning into Dable. I'm picking either Hunter or Carter at 3, and then I'm saying, okay, who's the guy that Dabes identifies? If it's a guy, maybe Dable just looks at it and goes, guys, we're not going to win with any of the guys that are available that are there.
I've seen reports today, and I don't want to besmirk or dismiss anyone's reports. Local guys, I forget who. Someone was like, Giants are all in on Jackson Dart. They're not all in on Jackson Dart. Like, he might be the guy, but when you say you're all in on Jackson Dart, that means you're willing to take him at 3 overall, or you're willing to trade up to get Jackson. There is a connection to Ole Miss, obviously, through Eli, and I believe one of Joe Shane's kids goes to Ole Miss, so he's probably around the building. But if there was this great love for Jackson Dart and the Giants, I would have known, and I just don't think 72 hours before the Giants being all in on making Jackson Dart their quarterback. I have not heard that. That could be a really good secret close to the vest, and maybe I'm wrong, and they trade up to number 9 and they draft Jackson Dart. I don't know. But I would just say leave everything open as far as possibilities go as we head towards this thing at the quarterback position. They might not trade back into the 1st round. They might take one at 34. They might not.
Yeah. It's like we just don't know. Two other Ole Miss connections, just because I know you'll love this one. Charlie Weiss's son was one of the coaches on the Ole Miss staff. So Charlie's been talking up Jackson Dart a lot with the Giants in those circles, and somebody by the name of Joe Judge is on that staff, and Jackson Dart dropped Joe Judge's name dropped him at the combine. So we know Joe is spreading it out a little bit. I'm sure people are calling Joe for some information down there. So
how about that? Joe Judge, analyst, Ole Miss football.
How about this, Peter? Giants are all in on Jackson Dart. Oh, who was one of the primary coaches that he talked about? Joe Judge. Shedeur Sanders. Giants are all over Shedeur Sanders.
Pat Shurmur.
So if you're a failed or a fired New York Giants head coach, go coach a quarterback for a couple of years in college, and then maybe the regime will come down there and want to pick your brain as to who should be the guy to be the leader of the Giants at the moment.
Is Ray Handley still with us? Rest in peace if he's not. I don't know where he is. He at one of these programs? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, Saquon picked Jameis Winston to be on the Giants. That's what we were told
in a media session at the Super Bowl. Yes.
When he was your former colleague at Fox.
Wild. I cannot tell you how intrigued I am to just see the year. I mean, I don't think it's a 10-year thing, but I think whatever happens with Jameis and you guys on a day-to-day, because I've known Jameis since he was in Tampa in a very close way, and then I worked with him five. Like, super nice guy, like out there in a lot of ways, but like an amazing quote, and just putting him with you guys, the New York press corps, like together, I just can't wait to see what unfolds. Whether he takes snaps or he doesn't, I think he's going to be like, all right, things are going great. Let's get Jameis's quote. Things are going terrible. Let's get Jameis's quote. And you guys are going to be entertained.
Well, I could tell you that somebody, and I asked Joe Shane and Brian Dable about this at the owners meeting, somebody in the league told me that the Giants quarterback room has gone from milk toast to Fireball whiskey, with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito. And that's not even factoring the idea that a drafted rookie may replace Tommy eventually on this roster, depending on what happens with Tommy. It's unfortunate because Tommy is the guy who's kind of the odd man out. And look, he's done everything he can to establish himself in the league. We'll see how that thing plays out. So you nailed, I want to give you credit. The one rookie you didn't mention earlier when you went through it, I know it's just an oversight because you just running through guys. The one rookie that they did draft last year and they are super high on this year, you nailed the pick on this podcast. Theo Johnson. And we just talked to Theo today, and I actually tried to get Theo to talk about Tyler Warren. And if Tyler Warren goes to the Jets, is he and Theo, or they remain really close friends, are they going to get an apartment in between East Rutherford and Florham Park? And he kind of laughed and smiled. And, if I were smarter, or maybe if they were a little bit further down along, their contracts, and on a second contract, maybe they could, rent Aaron Rodgers' house over in Cedar Grove, Montclair, and see if they can be together.
Is it known where Rodgers lives? I know the town is Montclair. Like, people know the in Jersey, like that's the Rodgers estate, and it's like up on the hill or what?
Yeah, I think so. It's right on the Montclair Cedar Grove like border area. Because Tommy DeVito always joked about how everybody talked about him being from Cedar Grove, and the idea is that there were now two quarterbacks in Cedar Grove with Aaron Rodgers.
And what's the dynamic between Cedar Grove and Montclair? Because I know finance guys who live in Montclair and have their nose up that they live in Montclair. What's the dynamic in Jersey of a Cedar Grove resident versus a Montclair resident?
It's a very good question. Montclair's changed over the years in terms of being we got to ask our buddy Steve Politti over at the Star Legend.
Okay.
He's a big
He'll know that.
So we'll table that. Yeah, we'll table that. So who's your guy? If you know the Giants, defensive tackle, offensive line, and maybe running back are three spots that I think they're going to attack in day 2, day 3, quarterback aside. The work you've done, I'm not asking you necessarily to predict, but
last year Theo Johnson was a dart at the board and it hit, and I carried myself like I had just predicted the everything. I'll do it again. I'll give you a name that I think could make sense and that would be fun. That would be great in New York. You want to hear it?
Let's go.
Give me Jack Sawyer, Ohio State linebacker. Let's go. Wow. Let's go with Jack Sawyer. I think he's a top 100 prospect.
We're talking day three, like 5th or 6th round kind of thing.
I think day 2. I think they
Really?
again,
Wow.
again, give the Giants a strength up front and put Jack Sawyer as one of their linebackers. And you have already a good defensive line. You have a solid group of young linebackers, but like Sawyer is like leader of men. Rah rah, let's go! And like everyone says, this kid is interviewing over like through the charts, or off the charts, through the charts. I don't know what that means. Off the charts.
Okay.
I just think at this point, if you're the Giants, like we have this young team of like, let's get another defensive leader and a vocal guy, and Sawyer's that guy.
Give me your best interior defensive lineman. Your favorite guy. Doesn't have to be the top of the draft. Mason Graham.
Kenneth Grant.
Somebody. Grant.
Well, no, Mason Graham's number one.
Yeah.
And then Kenneth Grant at a
But
Michigan.
somebody who might be there for 34 for the Giants. That's kind of what I'm
Walter Nolan might be there. Another Ole Miss player. He might be sitting there. I like Grant more than Nolan. If Grant slips, it's because of questions about injury stuff and like, is he good to go? Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. I think people are going to hear his name a bunch in that like second half of the first round, and he is a game destroyer, and I think he would be a wonderful addition if they did that third board. Like, is there a chance, Art, where they are so confident in their approach that they take Abdul Carter at 3 and then interior defensive line at 34 before having a quarterback? I don't know, man.
They might. You never know. I mean,
They just
like you said,
we're gonna be like the Eagles and just have 10 deep. However, the Eagles also happen to have a quarterback and Saquon Barkley and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. The Giants do not have that.
Right. Tell me running back, last thing, and then I want you to tell everyone where they can find you this week. At running back, obviously we know Genty and probably Hampton go in the first round. You have a guy that you think would fit the Daboll offense to kind of complement Tyrone Tracy, somebody you like?
Yeah, it's like, all right, so Tracy could obviously catch out of the backfield, was the converted wide receiver, but was so good at running back. And then you start thinking like, well, who do you go with that? I think he gives you the ability where you can get a variety of different people back there. I like both the Ohio State kids. I don't think they're going to be around after the top 50. So then you start saying, all right, third round, fourth round, who's a running back that can go? I look at a guy named RJ Harvey out of UCF, who a lot of people really have been talking up to me as like a day 2, day 3 guy. And then one that I think would be a hit with the Giants fans, just hard-nosed, whatever. Cam Scatabo could be a really good compliment for like, your guy who can do it all and will leave it all on the field. Could you imagine they took Abdul Carter, they got a quarterback, and then they got like Jack Sawyer, and then they got Cam Scatabo? Like that would be 4 household names that we all watched in college and were stars on the college level. And then you plop them onto this team that is so young. I mean, I would be happy with those first 4 off the board as 4 picks that the Giants could take.
Yeah, the 2 backs that I like are Scatabo and I don't know, he might go a little earlier, but the Caleb Johnson thing.
Yeah, Iowa. Great.
From Iowa, and the fact that they hired Liddell Betts to be the running backs coach here. So certainly they have some intel on that. Peter Schrager, ESPN this week, draft coverage all over ESPN, ABC. Tell me what you got going on.
All right.
Where people could find you.
So, it's interesting. So I went from just being on Good Morning Football, which is like you knew you could put on NFL Network in the morning and you'd see me. That's not the case anymore. I moved over to ESPN, and my role is kind of be everywhere. But in being everywhere, it's hard when people are like, where are you going to be? So at least I know draft week. Here's where I'm going to be. I'll give you the full schedule if you want the Schrager experience.
Yes.
Wednesday, I'm on all day. So Wednesday, I'll be on Get Up. I think I'm on First Take. Then I'm on NFL Live, and I'm on Sports Center. So that's throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, I'll be on talking draft. Thursday morning, I'll be on Get Up, which is the show that Mike Greenberg hosts. I'll be on that show. It's from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on ESPN. And then I'm on NFL Live, which is a 2-hour show. It's all in Green Bay. And then I'm on like their Sports Center NFL Draft preview show. And then I got this invite last week, and I'm a little, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to be like riding shotgun with Pat McAfee on his feed and what his crew is doing. He has been great to me. I know you've gone on his show plenty of times. Like I like Pat's brand of entertainment, and short of being on one of the actual panels, which even then I feel like, a guy in my role is like, I'm hearing there might be a trade here, then I already know the information because it went through, like, and there's a trade. Like, I don't know what the reporter guy does on night one of the draft other than hearing all the other analysts, the ex-players being like, this guy's great, this guy's great, this guy's great, this guy's great. Like, that's the draft for you in most cases. And I love this guy. Here's why it works after the pick. I'm going to be with McAfee on Thursday. I'd be lying if I told you where that lives. I don't know if it's ESPN2 or if it's just online, but like, I am fired up to do that. He is entertaining. Those guys know what they're doing. And I would argue he's as connected right now with some of these decision makers as anyone else, the way he just texts and calls and gets all these guys on his show. Friday, I'll be on all of ESPN. I don't think I'm on any of the broadcast stuff at night, but throughout the day. And then Saturday, it's a real cool thrill for me. I'll be with Schefter, and the two of us are going to be together all day Saturday on the draft broadcast. And it's going to be like, I grew up worshiping, Chris Mortensen and thinking that was the coolest thing. May he rest in peace. Like, I think I'm not filling in for Mort, but it's kind of that role where Schefter was with Mort, and now Schefter's taking me on as kind of the number 2 guy, and I'll be kind of helping out with Schefter. So I'll be on all day Saturday, and hopefully when that Cam Scattaboo pick comes, whether it be on Friday night or Saturday, I'll be there to give you my instant reaction to the Giants taking him.
Oh, tremendous. Well, Peter Schrager, you are my guy. And like I said, it's tradition. So we'll see what the worldwide leader allows next year at this time. But if we can sneak off and continue the tradition, we will.
What do we think from the last half-hour conversation is going to go viral and be aggregated? Anything or no? Was there a big moment? Let's think. What goes on? Like Schrager said this to Art Stapleton. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to just let the aggregators do their thing.
You've kind of you laid low a little bit. You didn't drop the juicy last time. I think I got you on the Wednesday before the draft, so you had a little bit more.
But I feel like I came out swinging a little bit, saying that everyone who had Shador, as a lock to go 2 or 3. I don't know what I mean. Okay, that's all right.
You did. You're all good. You're my guy in this book. So really appreciate you joining us again. And we've got a live show on Thursday night from the New York Giants draft party at MetLife. It'll be more of a preview show. So if you're watching All In now, make sure you send me questions. We'll do a Q&A. I think we'll have John Schmelk from the Giants on to talk the latest out there. And we'll be watching.
3rd overall. Let's meet Giants' new prospect, Matthew Golden, who they selected. Let's go.
Well, we'll see how that works out. So when we'll all be shocked when they decide to trade down like 3 times and get out of the first round.
Collect a bunch of second-round picks. We're just going to let it.
It's the meat and potatoes of this draft, Peter. So for Peter Schrager, catch him on ESPN everywhere. Just follow him on social media as well. P. Schrags, always a pleasure. I'm Art Stapleton. Thanks to Paul Wood for getting this together today. We're all in. We expect you to be all in too the rest of the week. And as always, appreciate you tuning in.